gotta
Yay.
do a couple mom things. I'm multitasking, but I will do
I
it.
know.
on
I
video.
know how it is.
Sasha,
What
I'm so
mom
excited.
doesn't multitask is the better question.
Right.
Yeah.
So everyone, this is Sasha. I'm so excited that Sasha, thank you so much for coming. This is our third call, and I saw all these like Zoom meetings coming in my email for schools and for everybody's on Zoom, and I'm like, what Zoom? I want to do that. And so I just thought it would be fun to have like some special needs moms come together and meet each other and see each other. And then I was so excited about the material that you made for homeschooling that I'm like, asked if you'd come and share about it, and you were like, yeah, sure. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I've been getting so many people that were really excited for you to be here. So thank you, Sasha.
Of course.
So if you guys are not familiar, Sasha runs Autism Helper, which makes curriculum for special education teachers and schools. And she has a blog and a podcast, and she speaks and she writes and she does all the things all the time. And she has two beautiful girls who test out all of her material, which is super cute. I love seeing your stories, and they're doing all your stuff. It's so cute.
I was like uniquely prepared to homeschool preschoolers right now, because I was like, oh, let me pull out my closet of laminated materials. And I feel bad because I know a lot of people follow me like, where do you have all this stuff? I'm like, well, I was a teacher for 10 years and I've been consulting for 10 years. Like, this didn't happen overnight, but it worked out in that way.
So like, you are the only mother who's like, homeschool, I got it. No problem.
No, for like 2 minutes.
So thank you for coming. I printed out all of the material on the emergency homeschooling kit. So, okay, for anybody who isn't familiar, Sasha made an emergency homeschooling kit and gathered a lot of the materials that she makes for teachers and for classrooms, and then you added a bunch of stuff related to COVID, which I can't wait to hear about. But so she's selling that for $20. I don't know if you've all been able to download it, but I wanted Sasha to come and talk about that. And so here's like some of the materials, and I love these social stories. So I'll give the mic over to you, Sasha. I would love for you to talk about all the stuff and how the heck do we do this with our kids?
Yeah, $1 million question, right? So, and anyone, like, if I like look for a minute, like on Instagram, like I have it together, I don't. Like Instagram, as everyone knows, like you share the cool stuff. You don't share like the meltdown your toddler had. You take like the 6-second clip where she's doing it real good, but that's okay. We live for those 6-second moments where we're all in it. So I wanted to put together, this kind of emergency homeschool kit is what I called it, because I've been creating curriculum for 10 years. I typically work with school districts and teachers and selling curriculum and materials to classrooms. So I have this whole library of stuff and knew that I had things that parents could utilize, but I wanted to think about it kind of strategically because we don't have a lot of time right now. Parents don't have laminators and Velcro necessarily on hand. And we all have, by the way, our full-time jobs to do while we're supposed to somehow homeschool at the same time and then like go to the bathroom and like, have some type of sanity. Yeah, right. So I spent a lot of time thinking about what would be really simple. And because I know I hate when I download something or I purchase a subscription to something and I log in and I'm immediately overwhelmed. Like there's just sometimes too much stuff. Like sometimes I'm just like, I'm out. Like I paid for this, but I'm out. Like I can't figure it out. Like today I ordered a new hard drive and I plugged it into my computer and it didn't immediately update. And I was like, well, guess I'm not updating my computer today. Like, so we need something that's going to be kind of not quick, but quick to understand and to know where to start. So that's kind of where I started from. So in the resource, when you download it, and maybe I might flip my screen at some point to show you. Actually, do you mind if I do that now? Is that okay?
Please. Yes.
So I'm going to share. Maybe you have to enable that. I can do that.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to overlook.
No, it's cool. Hey, Esther, do you know how to enable that?
I am not sure. Let me see.
If you go to, it's okay if we can't.
Oh my gosh, thank you. We need all the help, Sasha.
If you go to video settings, I think there's a spot where it can be like enable participants to share screen. But
Okay,
in the
let me try
meantime, I basically broke it down into kind of the schedules and the calendars, the academic work, the visuals, and then some training tools. And the training tools on there is kind of what I want to show on the screen too, because those are things you can't really download. I shared a few training videos that are from my professional development group, and some also kind of popular and pertinent to this time period podcast episodes, blog posts, all that. Because if you go onto my blog right now, I've been blogging for 10 years and it's gonna be immediately overwhelming. So it's like, what top 5, if you've got 5 minutes, what blog post should you read? What podcast should you listen to? So I kind of put that all together there. So I'm gonna kind of just start going through some of the pieces, and then we can talk about how to use them, what that looks like, and then how to basically, oh, there we go, I can share my screen. How to basically structure your day. So this is what, can you all see my screen now?
Yeah.
Cool. So when you download this, you get access to this page. And so I wanted it, again, to be really simple. Here's your schedules and calendars. Here's your academic work. I'll show you how to kind of figure out what the right level is. There's a start here button. But this component, the parent resources and the videos here, I think will hopefully be really helpful. This will elaborate a lot on what I'm talking about, why we use visuals for behavior, why we use visuals for academics, how to use them. And then there's some different sets of the visuals in here. So it's pretty quick and easy to download. If you've already gotten to this point and you've downloaded these, if you've had tech issues, we have an awesome customer service person that's been helping us, because, you know, sometimes technology doesn't play well. So let's start with kind of the schedules and the visuals. And I have a few things here as well that I pulled from it to kind of show. So one of the first things I made, and I'm going to update this because I optimistically only made a March and an April no school calendar. So sad, right? That's cute. That's really cute that I did that, but I'll make the other ones. Like my own daughter uses this now. Like I write in things and draw little weird pictures and we cross off each day. And yeah, we don't know when this all is ending, but I think this is really important to show, like, today is not a school day. Like it's not a regular day, and kind of keep showing when things are coming. You know, like the only thing I've been looking forward to lately is Trolls 2 coming out on demand tomorrow. So like that little Trolls picture, like I as an adult am excited about that, is like on our April calendar. So she can like see when it's coming, because that, I think, for any child or adult right now is the unsettling part. Like this big change in our life has happened. And when are we going back? And what does tomorrow look like? And what does the next day look like? And as much as we can use visuals to support our verbal language, the more successful we're going to be. And with many kids on the spectrum, we see that difficulty with receptive language processing. So it's not an inability to hear, it's an inability to process all that verbal language. And we tend to talk a lot. Like, I mean, you already know how quickly I talk. So, you know, when we're saying like, we're gonna do this and this and this, some of our kids just can't keep up yet. So while we're on step 4, they're processing step 1. And so the rest of it's a surprise for them. So I think having a calendar, something that's really simple that you talk about every day, is really key. And the thing after a calendar is schedules. So I'm a huge schedule person. The hardest part right when this all started for me was like not having my schedule and my routine and what I'm going to do every day. Like I literally wrote out for my husband, like, this is what we're doing every day for my kids, and that was mostly for me, because I was like, I need to know when I'm going to be able to work, what our day looks like. That whole unstructuredness is not fun for a lot of our kids. I think a lot of our kids thrive on knowing what's coming next. And a lot of that comes back to that receptive language processing, that when we say, hey, Johnny, good morning. You know, we're gonna watch a movie, and then we're gonna play outside, and then we're gonna do Legos, and then we're gonna do this because mom has to work. We've gone through 4 things. And if the processing speed is not there, then we're like, you know, Johnny's confused. He's like, what's going on? Like, what are we doing next? So I'm a huge, huge component of schedules. When people tell me like their kids don't need, you know, oh, we don't do schedules in here. Like, everyone has a schedule. We have a work schedule. Like, that's how we show up to our jobs. So that being said, not every kid needs a visual schedule. They might, but every kid needs some type of schedule. And I think now more than ever, when life's really confusing and unpredictable. So
do you think that, is that like, okay, with the schedule, I love this. How do you do it? Like with your kids, or how do you suggest we do it? The first thing in the morning, do we go through the schedule and say like, okay, this is what's happening today? Is that like where we start?
That's what you and I do in the morning. You know, I always think about, what do I do when I wake up? Like, I look on my calendar app, I scroll social media, I kind of see what's going on in the day. Like, you know, do I have any appointments that I need to know about that are coming up? What fun, like we think about what fun things, when am I getting a break today? Like, that's what we do kind of first thing in the morning to check in. So I think that's always a good kind of morning activity. Like, let's review when the awesome parts of your day are, when the parts of your day that you don't like are, and talk about what's going to happen, because that kind of gets everyone ready to approach their day in the same way. So I think whatever, that can look like a lot of different ways. And I think the misconception sometimes is like, well, every child needs this laminated board maker schedule. No way. Like, if your kid's a reader, write it on a Post-it, write it on a dry erase board, write it on a piece of paper. Like, my husband now does this because he knows how successful schedules are. With my daughter, I draw little pictures, like whatever, like a picture of a TV, a picture of a this, and then we cross it off as we go through. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. So one of the things I included was, if your child does need visuals, you're probably feeling it right now because you're like, crap, like their textbook is trashed because we've, you know, have Cheeto dust all over it, and I don't have a laminator, and the teacher normally sends stuff home. So I put a daily schedule in the homeschool kit. But what I wanted to show, and I showed some pictures on there, is you can do this without laminating. So I just cut out and pasted with a glue stick the order of the day, and then I put it in a page protector. And to me, like, you don't need a laminator if you have a box of page protectors, and they're like $5 for 100. It's like poor man's laminating, and it works just as well, because if it's in a page protector, you can cross it off. So you can go, okay, first we're going to do this. Now it's done. Next we're going to do this. And then it can wipe off the next day, and you can use it again. So you don't need something really fancy. You could use this and just write out your things and cross it off. It just helps you not print a million things, because you don't have to print this a bunch of times. So if you're taking the time to draw little pictures, go ahead, pop it in here and just cross it off with a dry erase marker every day. So that's a kind of a nice way to avoid the laminator Velcro issue.
Well, no, I never thought about that. And that is really nice. It's like sometimes sometimes I think that with like the Velcro and like taking one thing off and putting it, you know, moving it over, it's cool. But sometimes Remy will get distracted with that. Like that becomes the activity that's fun to take them all off. And so no, that's easy.
And then you lose them, and then you lose the one you need, and then you're like, screw this schedule, I'm not doing a schedule anymore. You know, like that's what it becomes really quickly. So I think that's kind of a nice solution. And like, you know, a box of page protectors is less than $5, and you can make tasks with it. You can, you know, I showed on Insta stories the other day, like I had these matching task cards, and I was like, if you don't have a laminator, put them in there and have your student or child use a dry erase marker and do the activity. So it's not going to cost a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of time, because we don't have extra time now to be like printing and laminating and prepping things. It's super time consuming. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. So, you know, I think that's a nice solution. So I think, you know, thinking about calendars and schedules, basically you want to just think about, how does my child know what we're doing today and what we're doing tomorrow? And if we think about the anxiety that gives us, like, how much anxiety are we all under right now because we don't know what 1 month from now, 2 weeks from now looks like. I mean, imagine that for our kids. That's probably amplified. So really thinking about how can we explain in a way that they understand what we're doing today, what next week looks like, and that we really maybe don't know when this is done. And that stinks, you know, and that is going to provoke anxiety for all of us. But thinking about how we can explain that in a way that they understand, and not just verbal language, because you know, even if your child is super verbal, I've met a lot of kids and had a lot of clients that are super, super verbal. They talk all day, and it's this amazing coping skill. They just talk all day because they actually can't understand, you know, they can't process all the language that they're getting. So like, man, if I just keep talking, no one will figure it out that I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty brilliant coping strategy that usually serves them well. But when it comes down to it, when you're like, okay, well, no, I said we have to do this first, you know, then there's the conflict because they didn't know, you know, they didn't understand. And that's where a lot of our conflicts and negative behaviors arise from, is a lack of understanding or is a lack of skills on like how to understand or process or communicate. So really like all of these tools are to avoid that, are to help our kids be successful and communicate, and to avoid feeling overwhelmed and, you know, unable to communicate what they want.
Yeah. Do you think that I know when Remy was younger, I was always told to talk to her and explain things to her, and I always felt like she doesn't know what I'm saying. She doesn't care. She's not paying attention. Like, really? Do I like, I'll just do it for her. Why do I have to explain it? Do you think that even though it looks like our kiddos are not understanding what's going on, do you think it's still good to go through the schedule and talk about what's happening?
Because that's when you're teaching, you know, like a lot of all of these things, and I tell this to teachers all the time, like none of these things are magic wands. Like if you do this tomorrow and you're like, hey, can we host your schedule? It's not going to be like, oh, I get it. Great. I'm going to be perfectly great all day. Like when you go through the process of being like, all right, look, we're going to do school time. This is what we're doing first. This is what we're doing second. And even if your child seems not into it, seems to not respond, that's when you're teaching. Like these are tools, and we have to be taught how to use tools. And that's the process, is going through and every day, like, you know, it might not click right away. It might not click tomorrow, but that's when we learn, is like in that process of like coming to that. And even if, you know, our kids are really successful, you know, on their own, I think the reason we want to like kind of lean on schedules right now, because, you know, your kids in your house, they know what to do. They know where their toys are. They know how to keep themselves engaged some of the time and get kind of access to what they want. But because there are so many changes now, that's when we really want to lean on schedules, because it's not business as usual. You know, we're at home for way more hours than we used to be. So how are we, one, filling that time, but how are we showing that there's different things here and different expectations? What, you know, was cool for an afternoon might not be cool for a whole day anymore. So that process of talking through it and going through it is really when you're teaching them, even if it doesn't seem like they understand it yet. They might in the future. So that's really why you do that. And thinking about, you know, with your verbal language too, I'm not saying don't use verbal language, but think about, like, especially when we're busy, like how many step commands do you give? Like I challenge teachers to do this a lot in the middle of the school year, because they're like, oh, I give like 2 or 3 step directions. And then they're like, oh, damn, I just gave an 8-step direction. I'm like, yeah, because you just get like, we get caught up in the moment. You're like, okay, take off your pajamas, brush your teeth, wash your face, shower, come downstairs, get your breakfast. And you're like, boom, boom, boom. And they're like, take off my pajamas. Take off my pajamas, take off my pajamas. And they take off their pajamas and they're sitting there butt naked. And you come back 10 minutes later and you're like, what the hell? You haven't had breakfast yet? Like, and it's because, you know, as you were on step 8, they were thinking about step 1. So it's like slowing down, which if you have a job right now sounds like horrible. Like we just got to get stuff done. But you know, it takes time to follow through and teach those multi-step directions, because sometimes the processing speed just isn't there yet. And
it's interesting that you're saying this, because you're talking about kiddos with disabilities or kiddos with autism, but this is like kind of just kiddos.
Yep. Yep, for sure. I know. I always tell teachers, because I do a lot of consulting in schools, and, you know, I'll come in for my client with the IEP or on the spectrum, whatever, give gen ed teachers some suggestions in the inclusion setting. And without fail, whenever I come back, the teacher's like, did you know what you told me to do for him worked for everyone? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I told you to do it. Like these aren't like special ed voodoo strategies. It's, you know, it's just best practice. And like, when we think about ABA, I don't know how, you know, if your kids right now get ABA services, ABA is the science of human behavior. It's not the science of special ed behavior, of autistic behavior. It's a science of human behavior. And if we think about why we do what we do, it's the same for us as it is for any of our children. So it all just kind of starts to make sense when you think about like reinforcement and things like that. So it's universal on the behavior stuff. Sometimes my husband will be like, are you doing like that ABA stuff right now? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just keep unloading that dishwasher. Like, it's all good.
Load the dishwasher and then come back to me and I'll give you step 2.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of reinforcement, I think that's something I could easily fill up like the next 3 hours, but I will not. So when we're thinking about putting a new demand on our kids in a setting that they don't normally have that demand, which is doing schoolwork at home, like for a lot of your kids, like the first day you like pulled out the laptop and were like, look, your teacher's doing a Zoom call or here's a workbook. They're probably like, that's bullshit. I do that at school. Like, I don't do that here. Like, I want my iPad. I want my Xbox. Like, this is my chill time. So that's a big transition to make on, you know, putting that new demand in. So when we want to think about whatever demand we're placing is the reinforcer, like with every skill, with everything we do, like any of us, all of our decisions are shaped by the skills we have to do that. And do we want to do it? You know, right now, if someone was like, Sasha, go run a mile, I'd be like, no, I want to watch TV. I don't want to run a mile. I have no motivation to run a mile. If someone was like, go run a mile and I'll give you $500, I'd be like, okay, let's go run a mile. So I'm not saying pay your children $500 to do their work, but we do want to think about with, you know, any new expectations we're putting, what are the reinforcers there and what are they getting out of it? And with all kids, things like praise, things like good grades, things like parent approval, things like because you should are not reinforcers. And we think like that's a reinforcer for everyone, but I made you a sticker chart. And they're like, I don't really care about your sticker chart. Like, that's real cute that you made a sticker chart, but I don't want a sticker. So, you know, I have a lot of, I think one of the podcast episodes on that parent resource tab is about reinforcement. Cause I think that's like the secret sauce to everything is if you can really figure out some good reinforcers, that's where you can make some real change. You can get some stuff done because you have to have a reason to do things like all of us. None of us would go to work if we didn't get a paycheck. So one thing I have in the kit that if your child is very visually based, again, we might not have like a textbook with all this stuff, is a really simple, I am working for like option. And I put this in a page protector too, so you can reuse it because again, we might not have Velcro and all that. And saying like, okay, we're going to do, you know, we're going to do these 2 worksheets. You can pick, and I put some generic things on there. You can make your own. You don't have to use mine. You know, we're going to work for iPad. I'm going to give you 5 check marks, 5 stars, whatever. When you get the 5th one, you get iPad to like really clarify. And again, you can use then, you know, a dry erase marker to show when that's coming, erase that for next time. So it's like quick and easy to make. And again, it's just going to keep it very structured, which is good.
Okay. So with that one, you put a check mark. So okay. I was going to ask you about that specific chart. So you put a check mark and then you just run through the tasks.
So I think this is going to really depend on your child. So if you have a 2-year-old and, you know, your goal is not going to be like, we're going to do 5 activities. Your goal is going to be like, you sat here for 10 seconds, you get a check mark. You sat here for 10 more seconds, you get another check mark. So in the process of teaching this, you might get iPad real quick, but that's okay because you're teaching that like these check marks have value. So it can be if you have an older student, if you have a student that has a lot of language that's used to systems like this, it can be there are 5 tasks and after each one you get a check mark. It can be after a few minutes. If you see that your kid's getting really squirrely, the next time they do something they're supposed to do, you give that check mark right away to kind of like grab them back. Like, oh yeah, come on, like, look, we're almost there. We have 3 more. This can be with 3 check marks. This can be with 20 check marks. Just basically the idea is showing, how are you showing when the reinforcer's coming and like how are you connecting their positive responses to that reinforcer? So yeah, when you're sitting, when you're completing work, when you're doing questions, I'm giving you those check marks so we can see that connection that like it's coming really soon.
So with the reinforcers, so this is a question that I kind of wonder sometimes. So like, okay, an iPad, for instance, is something that a lot of kids love. But if the iPad is available all the time, would I use that as a reinforcer?
Well, if they can get it for free, why would you work for it? It's like a whole weird twist on the like, if you get the cow for free kind of saying. So, I get asked a lot like, oh my gosh, my kid has no reinforcers, or I can't figure out a reinforcer for this, my child or my student. Think about what they have free access to. Like, what can they just get for no, just all the time? Because some of those things could be potential reinforcers. If you have a whole huge bowl of Cheetos in front of you at all times and someone said, hey, come do a puzzle and I'll give you a Cheeto, they're like, I got Cheetos right here. Like, so we can make things more powerful by restricting access to them. And that's the same thing with us, with you and I, we have reinforcers too. So things become more powerful when we don't get them all the time. Like if you think about special events or limited time offers, like I'm like a big Starbucks person, which is really killing me right now that I can't go to Starbucks that much. But for Starbucks, the pumpkin spice latte weirdly comes out in August when it's like hot out, but people are obsessed with it. They're like the pumpkin spice latte because it's only available at that time. Also the McRib, which is another weird one I'm not into because I don't know why it's shaped like it has like a bone in it. It's really weird, but people love the McRib and they're like, the McRib is back. It's because you can only get it at a certain time, right? So it's more reinforcing, it's more powerful, it's more exciting. So if we think about, okay, well, can we limit, and yes, we have lives, we can't like just turn the TV off or turn the iPad off, but how can we limit some of those cool things, at least so there's that like setup of, hey, first you do my stuff, then you get your stuff, just to start to have that balance of, we're going to do my stuff first, then we're going to get iPad. And if you've had free iPad access to iPad, like the whole 7 days, and you pull that out, like your child's not going to be super pleased about that right away, but you'll get there on like setting that up as like the structure of what part of your day looks like.
What if that is the only reinforcer and I take the iPad away and then say you can only earn this? Like, is that a good idea, or do I have to find new things?
It depends on your life and your kid, and it doesn't have to be all day. It can be like for this period of time, you have to earn it. And it can be a really like, you can start like, you have to earn it by sitting in the chair next to me for 10 seconds and then you get it. Like you can start there. Like that's a good place to start and then build to something more. You want to meet your child where they're at too. If we're like, having massive tantrums because you're taking the iPad away, our next expectation isn't, well, like sit and work with me for 20 minutes, then you get iPad. Like we're so far from that. We got to meet them where they're at and kind of give an expectation that's achievable. Like that's something that we can do. We want to set our kids up for success. If that expectation is way too high, all of us, we'd immediately be like, I'm out. Like, I'm not into that. I use the analogy a lot of the couch to 5K running guide. Have you guys ever seen that? Like run a 5K, like basically for non-runners, like how do you run a 5K? And the first step on the couch to 5K running guide is not run 1 mile. Because if you download that and it says run 1 mile, you're like, psh, I'm out. The first step is super easy. The first step is like walk 15 minutes. And you're like, okay, I can walk 15 minutes, fine. The second step is walk 15 minutes, run 30 seconds. And you're like, okay, that's super easy. Fine. Like every step seems so doable. And that's really what we want to create for our kids, is that like that next step is like, you got this. Like you want your kid to be thinking like, man, mom's an idiot. All she wants me to do is sit here for 10 seconds. Fine. Like that's what you want their inner monologue to be, that like, this is so easy because you want it. And then you're going to build from there. Just because you did that way Tuesday doesn't have to mean you have to do it that way Wednesday. So you can really like build like, okay, well today we're going to like do one activity your teacher sent us, or half of an activity your teacher sent us, not the whole kind of agenda.
So what would you do? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of playing out
I like it.
scenarios in my head, but the structure of it I love. I think that our kiddos need structure. Remy is so structured right now because she has ABA and she's following all of these steps and she's doing great. And my 4-year-old doesn't have ABA and she doesn't have structure, and everything's a tantrum every time that she doesn't like what we're saying. But just say like, we've got this perfect plan and they're working for the iPad or whatever. And then like, it doesn't work out and they have a meltdown and we really just want to give them the iPad. How do we continue on, or do we revisit it later, or what do we do when our perfect plan just doesn't work out?
And it won't, because perfect plans don't work out, right? That's why life's not boring, especially if you have a child with special needs or autism, as you guys all know. So in those scenarios, you're always in that, like, you feel backed into a corner because you're like, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. If I give them the iPad, did I just teach them that they get a tantrum, they get the iPad? If I withhold the iPad, now everyone's miserable because we have to cook dinner. I have a conference call. My other kids have their e-learning to do on school. What does that look like? I think, you know, we don't want our kids to ever, like, no matter age, disability, whatever, to hit rock bottom where there's like nothing earned, like nothing left to earn. If you've ever gotten to that point where, you know, and a lot of sometimes school-based classroom management systems are like this, and I don't love it. Like if we get on the red card, I'm always like, well, how can they get back to green? And the teacher's like, oh, they're just on red for the day. And I'm like, well, then you're about to have a horrible day, because if Johnny's just on red at 11 o'clock, like you better believe like he's going to wreak havoc on that classroom till 3, because why not? Like he's already on red. So we always want that, like, but like, don't worry, like, but if you do this, you can earn it back. And you know, sometimes it is just like, hey, I need you to be quiet for 10 seconds, or I want you to sit in the chair. Or I want you to, like, having that really small expectation. If there is a big meltdown after, what does it look like to get back, and being really clear. And I have in the homeschool kit a bunch of behavior visuals, and that's where I think a lot of those can be helpful in showing, like, you know, not talking so much and more focusing on like a first, then, like there's some of those, like, you know, first quiet, then iPad or toy or whatever. Because thinking about when we're in meltdown mode and we're really, really mad, like even you and I, when we're really angry and someone is like trying to talk you off, like when you off the wall, like if you're really mad and you have certain friends that are like the friends that will let you just vent, great. And then you have other friends that are like the problem solvers. And we never go to those friends when we're really mad, right? Because they're like trying to fix it. They're like, well, what if you tried this? And what if you tried this? And you're like, no, just let me be pissed off. And sometimes I think our kids, any kids, are like that. They're just really mad. And when we come in talking, it's like way too much. So I think really simplifying on like, I need you to do this, and then we're going to do this, and kind of walking away for a minute, making sure they're safe, but not engaging in the tug of war then, because then it becomes a power struggle. And who wins a power struggle? Like, no one, or our kids. Let's be real. Like, we don't win. The parents and teachers don't get to win the power struggle. So we want to avoid the power struggle before it starts, and kind of set them up for success on how to get back to that reinforcer. Okay. If that answers your question in a really long way.
No, that was good. It's like, I think we all have really good intentions, and we just don't know how to steer the ship back to where we had it going. And that's helpful. It's helpful because okay, what I really think is helpful is the introducing things really small. Like instead of saying, okay, run a mile, okay, like put on your running shoes today and walk for 15 minutes. I think that with parents, we expect our kids to just run the mile. And like you were saying, like giving them 8 steps, that's how I think all the time. Julian, go get the laundry and then take the garbage out and then cook dinner and then get your sister and then do this and this and this and this. And like 10 minutes later, I'm like, why are you watching TV?
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful, is just maybe lowering the expectations and meeting our kids where they are is
and I think sometimes it feels like, oh, we shouldn't lower expectations. We're not, we still have those high expectations. We still want the 8-step command followed, and we still want, the big goal accomplished, but it doesn't have to be accomplished today or tomorrow. We have to work slowly. And I think when it comes to homeschooling, like thinking, kind of circling back to where we've all found ourselves, is we're not on like the 3rd week of being off of school trying to recreate a 6-hour school day in our homes. Not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. Like, we're not going from like, hey, we maybe never did homework at home because teacher never sent any home, to like, now we're going to do 6 hours of academic instruction. Like, that's not going to happen. So I think, when we're thinking about homeschooling, it can be that same approach, that we're going to build up really slowly and keep it really structured and really simple. And maybe we keep that structure the same, but you build the tasks, you build the complexity, you build the length of how long you're sitting and working from there. Kind of actually how I set it up with my own kids. And even this is like what I would do in the classroom as well. I always tell teachers, August and September is not about IEP goals, not about learning. It's only about routines and reinforcement. Like, you want your kids to learn their schedules, you want them to learn where to go, and you want it to be fun. So the first kind of week that we had no daycare here, I was like, okay, from 9 to 10 is going to be like some type of structured time. And the rest of the day can be Disney Plus, and I don't care, whatever. But from 9 to 10, we're going to do something together. And I had grabbed 2 bins, and one's like, I dumped toys out from the basement that's probably still sitting in a pile. And the other one's like an old basket that someone gave me. And I just put like a puzzle in one and like a worksheet in the other. And I put a laundry basket at one end of the kitchen, and we sat at the little play table, and I was like, these are your baskets. This is your bin. This is your bin. We're going to each do our thing. When you're done, go put it in the laundry basket, because that means it's finished. And that was how we did it from day one. And I just kind of slowly put more and more things as they wanted to work more and more. And even my 2-year-old, by the end of that first week, she was like taking her puzzle and going to put it in the laundry basket because she knew it was finished. And she knew when she was done with her work, because there was nothing left in the basket. And we were able to really increase how long we were working. And the first day we didn't work the whole hour. We worked a few minutes, and then we colored together, and we went outside, and we did things that were not on a screen. And that was my goal. From like 9 to 10, we're going to be engaged in something, and that's fine. And, having it be really simple, like it wasn't fancy. And that's still what we do now. They have 2 bins, and I just put stuff in the bins, and that's what they do. And it can be stuff from around your house. It can be, it can be the worksheets that I've shared. It can be stuff that you found online. But they know what's in that bin is what they have to do today. And it wasn't, some days if they're like, I don't want to do this one, I'm like, okay, cool. We don't have to do that one. Like, it doesn't have to be this, like, you have to do all of it right now, setup either.
Do they like that? Are they used to it now?
Yeah. I mean, I tell you, my 2-year-old, I'm like, let's go do work. And she like goes and gets her basket, and she knows which one is hers. And like, it was funny to even see within the first week how quickly that structure clicked for her, for the little one, on that, like, this is what we do. And it's all stuff they know how to do. We kept it really easy tasks right now. And they're getting a lot of attention and a lot of praise and a lot of reinforcers. So they're into it. I tell teachers a lot, your goal is like, be a chocolate chip cookie. Because like, everyone loves a chocolate chip cookie. And if your kids love you as much as I love chocolate chip cookies, they're going to want to sit down and work. So it's not, if it's becoming a power struggle and a battle, kind of step back and take a day off and feel like, okay, how can we make this fun again? Because if we're fighting the whole time, this is miserable for you, this is miserable for me. And really, what's the point then? Like, no one's learning. We're not going to just suddenly one day be like, okay, I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm just going to do it. So how can we make it more fun? How can we make it more engaging, and how can we add in more reinforcement so it's not as aversive, if that's like where you're at right now with homeschooling?
I love this. Like, it's making me think that after this call, I need to write down a list of ideas to make as reinforcements for like all of my kids.
Yeah. And you know what, honestly, I did? I like went on my phone, I pulled up the notes app, and I walked around my house, and like both of my kids had birthdays in the winter, and they just got like so much crap. And a lot of it I just put in like cabinets because I was like, it's like too much stuff. And I just walked around and like wrote down like what toys we had and what craft, like someone gave her like a sand art that I was like, I'm never going to do this. But now I'm like, hell yeah, we're doing sand art. Like, okay, we have Legos that we don't use that much. We have this, and just wrote down stuff I had in the house. And that helped me have like a list of ideas to do. And then even what I did on this little calendar is I took that list that I wrote and I put one thing on each day. And it's stuff they already own. It's their own Legos. It's their own whatever. But like, because it was on a calendar, it was suddenly like, we're doing Legos in 3 days. And I'm like, you could do Legos right now. But it was like, we're doing it in 3 days. We're doing it with mom. And it was suddenly like a special thing to do. And even like, you know, Pinterest and the special ed community, I think, has been great on sharing ideas and resources, but it's overwhelming. It's like, okay, well, I have all these cool things to do. Just have a running list, and then every day pick one to do, or put it on the calendar of like, okay, I saw this cute idea to do this. We're going to do that tomorrow. And like, just have it be like one thing that we're doing.
Oh my gosh, I love that. About 99% of the stuff in our house, the kids do not play with.
A big thing that I recommend too is like packing up half of your toys, which sounds counterintuitive to like, well, what are we going to do? Packing up half of your toys, throwing in the back of your closet, and then every week bring out 3 new things. And it's like, oh my God, like it's like Christmas morning because they haven't had it for a week. But, you know, especially with our kids on the spectrum, it's sometimes just too much. It's just too much stuff. We're overwhelmed because there's a mess everywhere. They're overwhelmed. I would much rather see on a shelf 3 toys instead of 36 toys. So if you feel like, oh my God, there's just crap everywhere, take a laundry basket, fill it with a bunch of toys, put it in the back of your closet, and bring out that laundry basket in a week. And it's going to be like, you're going to have bought yourself enough time to go to the bathroom and maybe watch a show. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that is the best advice ever. And it seems so obvious, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not, because you're like, well, but they might want to use this today. They won't. They won't. And they're going to want to use it even more next week. And when we think about reinforcers, again, we're restricting access to it. You know, it's more exciting because they don't have it right now, and it's new and special. But I'm going to go through a few other things. I could talk about all these topics for like 5 hours, but I will not. So one of the things you showed was the social stories. So
please talk about that. I want to.
In the download under the visuals, there's a big set of social stories, and I made 5 or 6 specific to what we're doing, what's going on now, like schools are closed, social distancing. And, you know, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with social stories. I think social stories can be super useful, but like anything that we've talked about, they're all tools. Like nothing's going to be a magic wand. You can't print a social story and hand it to your kid tomorrow and be like, cool, you understand social distancing, right? Again, we have to teach these. And I see too often teachers just think it's like a quick fix or a Band-Aid. And it's not, you know, it's still something that we have to teach and utilize. So social stories can be really great because it's going to be a really simple, really routine-based way, visually based way to clarify expectations, to even kind of give our kids what we want them to say or to do and not to do, and talk through kind of the what ifs, you know. So this is how I feel and what I want to do, but this is why I shouldn't do it. And this is why I should do something else. So just like schedules, we want to teach the social story. We want to use it all the time. If schools being closed is really stressing out your child, I would take out the schools are closed social story every morning and read it together. And every morning go through and talk about, okay, yep, schools are still closed. Yep, we're still not going to school today. Reread this. If they have it memorized, they'll maybe be able to read it by themselves by day 3. because we want to put all this language in their head and have them in those hard moments be able to come back to this. I think all these tools can be really successful when we use them like away from the problem behavior. If we wait to bust all of this out for when our kids are stressed out, they might not be ready to like receive this information. So it's doing that pre-teaching of like, okay, let's talk about this when you're open to it and when you seem like in a good mood, not waiting till you're really escalated, then be like, well, there's a social story, let's try this really quick. Because then we're in that like, no, I'm mad, don't talk to me situation. And sometimes that's counterintuitive. Like a lot of these things, you know, are counterintuitive. When your child's in a really good mood in the morning, you're not like, hey, let me talk about something that might piss you off. Like, no, we're like, no one bring up school. He hasn't realized we're not going to school. Like that's usually what we do, right? We're like, just keep the show on. Maybe he won't realize. He'll think it's Saturday. Like we tiptoe around it. Versus I think talking about it is going to be more helpful because it's not a surprise. We're not waiting for that like other shoe to drop kind of thing. So there's a few different there's a few different coronavirus school closing themed ones. And then there's just some other ones that could be useful that I put in there, like, you know, if you don't win the game or what to do when you're frustrated or how to ask for help. So things that could be commonly happening at home. You definitely don't want to print like all 15 and like have your child read all 15 every morning. Pick the ones that you're like, ooh, that sounds like my kid. Like, yep, like, oh, being, you know, not knowing how to ask for help, not knowing how to do this, like that. Pick, you know, 2 or 3 to focus on. You don't want to really like overwhelm. So that's how I would utilize those. And if your child is really struggling with schools being closed and not being able to go places, like I think the social distancing one talks about like, you know, we can't go to the mall. We can't go to the grocery store. Like if that's a big obstacle right now, then I would talk about that a lot. Chrissy,
and we can make our own. It seems like
and just you could draw your own, like on a Post-it. Like it doesn't have to be pretty or fancy, you know.
I love just looking at your social stories, because it just makes me laugh. Like, if I don't like this, I may want to scream and run and say no. And I'm picturing these kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, it's a nice way to put it. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to kind of like, you know, I think sometimes it's helpful to talk out what we want to do too, or like the negative choices we've made in the past of like what we can do instead. Because that's really what we want to be teaching. Like, I know that's what you've done before, but this is what we can do in place of that. So kind of teaching that, that replacement behavior there too.
I love this. I love this because what you've made is so simple, yet as you explain how it works, it's so powerful. And a lot of the things, I think just even being printed out reminds us of things that we don't think of on our own. Like for me, talking to Remy about the changes that have been happening, I haven't even thought to do that. I'm just like, no, the park's closed. No, the store's closed. No, we're not going here. No, we're not going here. And that's where I kind of leave it. And I feel a little bad that I'm not explaining more, but I think that with the social stories, I think that she'd really get into that, going, oh, okay, like she might not totally get it, but at least knowing what's happening, like it's almost official when you see it in a picture, like, oh, school is closed. Oh, okay, I get that.
And it's a good, like you said, I mean, some of these things are just reminders for ourselves. Like, you know, having even like I said, I'll use these same 2 bins for my girls' work every morning. I leave them out on the counter. And it's like a reminder for me too, that like, oh yeah, I should have them do something. Like, okay, so like we need visual prompts ourselves also.
For sure.
So the last kind of big chunk in the resource kit is the academic work. So I spent a lot of time thinking about the best and simplest way, because I wanted this to be accessible for parents that had kids at like a wide skill set. I don't have grades assigned to anything. I get asked this like probably like 10 times a day by teachers, parents, like, what grade is this? I'm like, because I can tell you like kind of what it's aligned to, but I also sometimes don't, because it might be first grade work that a third grader does need to work on. So, you know, the curriculum that I've made, I really started creating curriculum from a need of being a junior high self-contained teacher and wanting to meet my kids with where they're at and work on the skills they needed to work on. But I also did not want to hand a 13-year-old a worksheet that had a sunshine and a preschool skills, and like, I hated that. Like I hated that. But I couldn't find other things that looked age appropriate. So I try to make, you know, it's like my big passion is making things that are age appropriate, that can work for all, you know, multiple ages and skill sets, but not look babyish, because that is like my biggest pet peeve in life. So kind of what I came to, and it like when you go to the screen, it says like start here. And I really kind of broke down, like literally start here. This is what I want you to do. I want you to look at this and decide what level your kid's at. So I have 5 different levels of work included, and I broke down like, okay, a level 0.5 means your child can trace lines and big shapes. Level 2 means your child can write 50 words. Level 4 means your child can write a paragraph. So to just kind of scan this and be like, okay, I can roughly guess my kids may be at a level 2. You might download that work and try it and be like, oh, it's way too easy or way too hard, but it'll give you an idea of where to start. And I know, you know, there's so many resources online. It might be hard to figure out like, okay, my kid's in 4th grade, but is 4th grade work appropriate? Like, and then, well, what grade level work do I print or do I buy or do I download? So I wanted this to like guide it really simply. And then once you decide what level is a good fit, you can go download that work. And I have 3 kind of packets. There's a language arts packet, a math packet, and then a like kind of just general homework packet. So there'll be basically, if you want to set it up this way, there'll be 3 pages a day because it's 8 weeks. So obviously we're going to be probably out longer than that, but for now, 8 weeks. So if there's 3 different sets, if you wanted to print it all and then just put it at your counter and every morning take 1, 2, 3, this is what we're doing today. And that's the goal. And maybe they don't get through all 3 pages in one day. Maybe they go through them really fast, but that's kind of, I thought, an easy way to just kind of start where it can be simple. And there's a little daily schedule for kids. Like, let's do 1 page of language arts, 1 page of math, 1 page of homework, then we can do something fun. So super, super simple. These are the 3 things we're going to do. They're all there to download, and then we're going to do something fun. And then I put the other, you know, you get access to all the levels. So if you start on one and you're like, actually, I think they could do more, or I want to scale back, you can always go and download the other level.
And you have like, you have in this emergency kit, you have 8 weeks, but you have a lot more available besides 8 weeks. So when we get through the 8 weeks, we can get like, we can get all of the other stuff, and it'll be, it's good to know the level because it kind of works with all the other material that you have. Mm-hmm. So I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Sasha.
Yeah.
I would love to open it up to questions if anybody has questions. Esther, can you, okay, yeah. I guess raise your hand. Esther.
Yeah, we can start with iPhone Vidya. She's had her hand up for a while, so let me go ahead and unmute her.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Jody.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. Hi, Sasha.
Hi.
I just wanted to thank you for all your resources I have been using with my son for a long time now. And he's made tremendous progress with it. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, that's so great to hear.
Finally, I just wanted to thank you and, you know, learning a lot from you. The boom cards was a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. I haven't even talked about that yet.
Yes. And, you know, he loves it. Like, we just couldn't stop, you know, working on that boom cards with him.
Yeah. So boom cards are like, you don't want to put a penny in me on this one. So they're so fun though. If you go to boomlearning.com or if you go to any of my social media, it's probably like the last thing I've shared. They're interactive task cards, which means you don't have to print. They can work on any browser. They can work on an iPad, on a computer. I just put up like 4 sets in my store, but on boomlearning.com, there's a lot of free ones. And it's basically like an app, but that you can use anywhere. So if you're like, okay, I want to work on colors, and then it's like, what color is it? And you can click which one, and your student can click it on the iPad or on the screen. And yeah, they're so no print, nothing. So super easy to utilize. So check those out.
Oh, cool. Esther, can you put that in the chat?
Oh, yes, definitely.
You said it's boomlearning.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And then also, if anybody on the call has not seen Sasha's homeschool kit, you can go to, I made a really easy link, Sasha.
Oh, thanks.
So it's ASD parenting /Sasha. And then that will take you to Sasha's page, and you can look at all the stuff, and you can see the levels, and you can see what level your child's on, and you can access all the stuff that we've been talking about today. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I think Esther put that in the chat too. So, okay, is there anybody else? Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have three more people that raised their hands. So we'll start with Candy.
Hi, I was just wondering, what do you do with a kiddo that just automatically gets up in the morning and is already a caged tiger, and you can't seem to de-escalate her? Like, no matter what you do, she's just a caged, like, it's constantly like, and basically I spend all day like trying to get her out of stuff and really not accomplishing anything.
So, okay, so I should have prefaced this in the start. So I'm a behavior analyst. I have an ethics code, and I want to like come to your house and observe your child and answer that question. But ethically, I don't want to get too specific with, because these are all your kids too. These are your babies, you know, it's not, I say this when I talk to teachers too. When I don't know the whole scenario, I can't really ethically say what to do with your child. But I also then want to answer your question too. So just speaking generally, like not about specifically your child, and I hope that makes sense to everyone as well.
Yeah. So Sasha, it's funny that you say that, because I'm kind of learning about this ethics Bible that's like, there's a lot of rules in it, and it sucks that you have this many rules, but yeah.
You know, it sucks, and it doesn't at the same. So I used to teach ethics. I used to be an adjunct professor at the Chicago school, and yes, it sucks and it's complicated, but it's because this is a vulnerable population, and there are professionals that don't do the right thing, and we want to just, you know, make sure that everyone is being ethical, is being professional, is not making, you know, quick, you know, decisions and quick things that don't serve our students and our children the best.
Yeah, I totally get it, because like I went to like we went to like how to de-escalate somebody, like from you know, how to protect ourselves from, you know, a violent situation or whatever, because my daughter, the one I'm talking about, has autism, but she also has mental illness. And you know, I'm like, well, how can I, you know, properly restrain her? But it's illegal here in Wisconsin, so, you know, ethically they can't teach you something like that. They can only teach you how to protect yourself. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I just don't want to say anything that could do more harm than good either. So I think my general advice would be to reach out to her teachers, her therapists at school that do know her, and really like bug them to death on like ideas and trying things, and go to, you know, what has worked in the past at school, and take a little bit of like, you know, whatever situation we're in, you know, data sounds so scary, and it's not, but real informal data, and we can even call it like note taking, but like, if there's a part of the day that goes well, write it down. Like pull out the notes app of your phone and be like, I did this and this worked really well. Or, and then the reverse, like if something isn't going really well or makes things worse, write it down. Because what happens is we're exhausted at the end of the day, we go to bed and we try it all again. And it's sometimes hard to see those patterns that could be happening. We could be trying the same things that are continuously not working. We could be, if you have that, even a notes app in your phone, just to go back and be like, oh yeah, 3 days ago, this happened, and let me see why. So, you know, that informal data can be really helpful to know, like, okay, we had this, you know, small success here, and what was that? And what did that look like? So maybe I can try to recreate that tomorrow.
Thank you.
That answers your question in a non-way, sorry.
Okay.
I think that's perfect, Sasha. I think that answered it. I think generally, you know, just with, ask someone that you're working with first.
When you're in it too, like, and that sucks so much as a parent to have to like ask someone else for help with your own kid, to put it mildly. But when you're in it and part of it, it's so hard to see the big picture. Like, it's impossible because you're part of it. You don't have that bird's eye view. So even asking a family member, can you see something different than I don't? Asking, you know, teachers, asking other people. It's hard to ask for help. It's really, really hard. And I don't like, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, the thing is all this stuff you're talking about, like, my children are 10 and 12. I mean, 12 and 10. I know all of this stuff. But when you go through, when you are in, you know, the situation we're in right now, I mean, everything is like, all of a sudden you're in a tornado or a hurricane, and you forgot all of this stuff because it's all chaotic, you know, stuff. So all of this stuff we're reviewing tonight, you know, because I've been through all of the ABA and everything, and I've been through all this stuff. All of this is like, yep, you know, but when you're in this situation, you know, and you're like, I forgot everything, let's just panic. Let's just have a panic attack, you know.
And that's how we are. I mean, because we're all like stressed, we're all anxious, we're all coping. So it's hard to also give those skills to our kids right now when we're just trying to like make it to the next 10 minutes and the next hour. So
maybe you can make your own social story for yourself in a chart. Like, this is what I do first, and then this, and then this. And like, I know that it sounds silly, but like, when we're in the moment and we don't know what to do, and our kids are like climbing everything and screaming, and we're just like, ah. But if we have like, okay, we try this first, and then this, and then this, and you follow the pattern of what you already scheduled out, I mean, that could help. I haven't personally tried it, but I don't know.
I think it's like, you know, I always encourage when I do behavior trainings for teachers to have a crisis plan. And I think there's value in having that in a home too. And it can be really informal. Again, you could pull out your phone and write it in your notes app, but having a plan that you create when you are not in panic mode. Like when your child's asleep and, you know, you're like, I really want to watch Bravo, but I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm going to write out, next time this happens, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and write out the steps. So then you have like in your rational brain has planned something, because so often we're in crisis mode, we're reacting, we're not responding. Like we're going on emotion, we are going on adrenaline, and we're just trying to put out fires. So we're not thinking things through always, which is human nature. But if we can kind of, when we're not in the moment, make that plan, a lot of times there can be a lot more success there too.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I learned this a long time ago. I think with my boys when they were little, I was researching something, and it was like, don't keep adding on when they're in a meltdown. Like if you don't calm down, then you're not going to have candy. Okay, you're not listening. Now you're not going to have TV. Okay, you're still not listening. Okay, now you're in your room for the rest of the day. And then it ends up being like they're grounded for 3 months. They can't have anything. And
because we just say like crazy stuff when we're mad too. Like we're filled with emotion, you know, like, because we're human. And, you know, then you're like, why did I do that? Like later you look back at like things, you're like, oh God, like hope no one was videotaping me then, because I would be on some like real bad reality TV and I would be like, look at that crap mom. But like, you know, you just like, when you're angry, you do things from an irrational place too. Or like when you're stressed or panicked or anxious, which is like the new normal for all of us every day right now.
yeah. Oh my gosh. That's really good advice. Okay. Esther, is there anybody? Thank you so much, Candy. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, we have 3 more people with their hands raised. The first is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I'm trying to figure out how to put this because this is like a big snowball thing that's been going on. And I've been wanting to hear your feedback, Sasha, because of your background. So I have a 14-year-old daughter who is in middle school. She's about to go to high school. And I've been a life skills teacher for 10 years. So my first 4 years teaching, she was my student in my classroom. And I was so proud of, she learned to read her sight words. She learned to do her work. She started doing a bunch of stuff. And that's when I started discovering your website. And so I started bringing in a lot of your materials because they're really appropriate. A lot of special education stuff is just busy work, And I like that there's like an employability tasks, with what you're doing and everything. So I was really proud of how far she advanced, but then we moved and she moved on to another classroom and she moved on to a teacher that was not invested in special education. She was just placed there like it happens in so many places. And then she went into middle school. And it's just been regression after regression after regression. And so what's funny about COVID is that I've been journaling about how I need to find a different job so that I can homeschool her. And I just wanted to explore the option because now she's going to transition from this to high school. But they've got her doing, she was writing sight words. She was reading, level A books. Wait, baby girl, mama's talking. It stopped. The rain stopped. And sorry, she's talking at me. It was raining and she's obsessed about how the rain just stopped. Anyway, so so now that she's transitioning to high school, my big fear is they've got her in middle school and they said, oh yeah, she's got work jobs and they won't let me just pop in unannounced. I just can't show up and see what's going on. But one time I saw that she had a work job. It was just gigantic fishbowl and all she had to do was put big pom-poms in there when the girl can read sight words and learn them, I don't know why they're doing that. And I'm afraid that it's going to get worse in high school. So now I'm thinking I'm a certified special education teacher. I have background in this and maybe I should just homeschool her. I don't know. I have so much emotion. Now that she's going to high school, I'm afraid she's just going to get lost. And what I want is for her to learn skills that maybe she can repeat over and over again to maybe hold a job down.
Yeah.
I think so much of like classroom to classroom, and I've had, helped a lot of parents, clients, and students navigate, transitioning. It's so scary to go from one classroom to the next. And it's the worst when you've had a really great teacher and you go to like a not so great teacher. I think, I used to teach in Chicago Public Schools, which is a massive school district, and people all the time are like, which are the best programs in schools? I'm like, it's not even about this school or this, it's about the teacher. And there's that like is so little data or so little whatever. It's about the teacher that cares and the teacher that's going to go the extra mile and figure your kid out. And you can't like write that in an IEP. Like, I want the teacher that cares. Like, of course we all do, but you've probably all had the teacher that doesn't care. And those are some sucky years and you like die inside as you watch your child regress. So I think my advice is to, in general, always to like, try it out. Like, try out the new teacher, try out the new program. One of my favorite high school placements that I had a lot of clients go to was in a really bad neighborhood, a really crappy high school, but the teachers were so amazing. And the parents would get this placement and be like, I don't want my kid going here. And I'm like, you're gonna love it, just try it. And they do. Like, so I think, figure out who the teacher is, figure out what the program looks like, and then make that decision. Because maybe just because the junior high teacher wasn't great doesn't mean the high school teacher won't be great. And there's a lot of value in what you can provide in the home, but there's also a lot of value in what our kids can get in a school building that we can't always provide in the home too. So thinking about, job skills and social skills and executive functioning and independent skills, there's innately and a lot more opportunities for that in a school building versus a home. So that would be, just to always like see what teacher is next before making that decision.
Sasha, I have to say that when I found you, I was very over teachers. I was over all of them.
We're not all bad, I promise.
Zero faith in any of the teachers. And then I found you and I'm like, wow, she's actually really cool. And then I met a lot of your followers and it restored my faith in special education teachers, because not only are you amazing and love our kiddos, but there's a lot of other teachers who their one passion in life is to help our kiddos. And so just seeing like who you teach and who you inspire and all of the people that are attracted to you that are out there in our communities, I wish that we had a list of all of them and we could just go to them and choose them, because there are a lot of teachers that aren't cutting it. So I don't know.
And there's no nice way around that. They're just not, and then you have the fight, and you've probably all been there for that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to grab my charger really quick.
Oh, please.
I
love your feedback, Michelle.
Thanks for the feedback, because that's kind of where my husband and I were talking, and we were thinking, well, let's just try it out for a little bit and see how we feel. It's just really scary because we feel like time is running out, and so there's just.
I think still you can still be providing that support at home, like after school and this summer, and then see how it goes, when you get a placement.
Yeah, I think like interviewing teachers or meeting them or going, talking to them, I think that there's something to that, because it doesn't take very long for you to have an idea of how a teacher runs things, or you feel that energy pretty quickly when you meet someone, if they're someone that really cares and that will pour all of themselves into your kid, or someone who is just, this is a job, I'm just here because I have to be. You know that right away. So thank you, Michelle. Okay, there was one more person, Esther?
Yeah, we have two more people, Kim and Rosario.
Awesome.
Let me go ahead, and Kim's first, so let me go ahead and unmute her.
Okay.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. So we've been on this lockdown for, I think, 4 weeks now. I've kind of lost track. And we usually do full-time ABA, and that has been out for 4 weeks also. We are starting next week with telehealth. So ABA, I have no idea. We meet tomorrow to see what that's going to look like, how many hours and all that. Any recommendations?
I mean, just like you, I talk to a lot of BCBAs every day. They were all like thrown into this as well, so like telehealth for ABA services didn't really exist 2 months ago. And all of a sudden it's like, for distance learning, all these teachers struggling with distance learning, it's because it came out of nowhere, so my advice would be, give them grace and see how it goes. I think it's worth trying. I know a lot of BCBAs are trying to figure out, things that could work, and working really hard behind the scenes on, what things are HIPAA compliant and what activities will be engaging and what things will work and won't. I know teachers are in that like trial and error stage of distance learning too. So it might not be pretty right away, but I would see how it goes and give it a shot. And I think, like same thing, keep it structured, keep, the schedule, get, your BCBA's advice on like how you fit this into your day, what other things you can do to extend, because it's probably not going to be the same amount of hours. So what things can we do to fill other hours that maybe we have like a mom work time, and get some activities from, your ABA team there for like extension ideas. But yeah, I think just see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, and I was thinking, because I just came across, it's funny you brought up the boom cards. Or is that what? Yeah, I just like logged in and got it today, and I hardly had any time to figure it out. But I'm thinking that maybe if she could set up some of those for us, because then she can get the data.
Yep.
So I could do, and I'm thinking you can hear them, like 3 wild animals right now running around. So I don't know how I'm going to do, like how many hours a day I'm going to do of that and e-learning and all those things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, keep
Yeah.
it simple. And I
Okay.
think, and the Boom Learning cards are great. And I know a lot of BCBAs have been like learning about those right now because it does give the data. So you don't have to, like, you can put it on for your kid and you don't have to be writing anything down. So I have, if you go to the autismhelper.com, I can put the link in here. I can send Jody the link, but I just made like 4 or 5 sets of Boom cards that are like already made for a lot of common, like, basic skills goals. I don't know what, goals your kids are working on that are already made that have audio instructions and stuff. So those might be useful to your BCBA if that's something that has, similar goals or whatever. So yeah, try. I mean, I think it's just like going to be a lot of trial and error right now, unfortunately.
Sasha, what were you saying? What?
Let me see. I'll put it in the link in the chat right now.
Esther to look for it and put it in the
I'll just put it in the chat right now. I don't know why I didn't do that.
Okay.
I have 4 sets now, but I have a few more coming here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Kim, oh my gosh, you have to tell us about your little pyramid climbing thing. What is that? Where do you get
I will
it?
show you. It's so bad. I bought it on Etsy, and the person I bought it from, it said Georgia, and I'm like, yep, I'm gonna get it. It was the country Georgia, so it took like 2 weeks, I want to say, to get, but it's awesome because it's like this. It's wood, and it's a triangle, and then it's got a ramp that you can flip over that has pegs, or they can slide down. So we've been setting it up like right in front of the couch. They slide down it. They have like a rope climber on the other side. And it's nice because I'm in Chicago and it's been like, the weather's been nutty. So
Yeah.
today it was cold and rainy. So it was like perfect for them, but not
Oh my
rainy,
gosh, I was just
cold.
looking on your Instagram to see it. I don't see it. But yeah, it's it's a pyramid, and she has it in her living room, and you can climb up it and climb down it. And it's just like a bunch of, I don't know. It looks amazing. I think any kid would love it. I just was thinking about that.
I'd show you, but I don't want to disturb them. They're like quiet in the other room. So yeah, I'll take a picture. Thank you guys.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Sasha, too.
Okay, we have one last person, Rosara. Let me go ahead and unmute her.
Oops. Is she there?
Yeah, she's unmuted. I don't know if her audio is working or not.
It's hard, hard to figure out where everyone is. Like, where are you? Is she here? Maybe not.
Oh, yeah, she's still here, but I don't hear her audio at all, even though she's unmuted.
Okay. Are you there? Who is it?
Rosara.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay. Well, does anybody else have any questions before we go? Anything at all? Oh, April. I think, oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I actually don't know where the little tool is to raise your hand, so I'm like the only one, I'm sure. But I actually, the Boom cards, like, so the little link there, if you key that into the Teacher Pays Teachers account, that just takes you to the Boom cards?
Yeah. Or are you asking me this or?
Right, Sasha, sorry.
Yeah, no. The Teachers Pay Teachers link that I put on there. So Boom lets you sell through Teachers Pay Teachers. So when you buy it, you get a link, and then it links you right to the Boom account. So then then it goes in your library, and you can use it from any browser, from any iPad or whatever. And I have a list of directions and how to use it in there too.
Okay, and what exactly are Boom cards? Because I haven't heard of this.
They're basically interactive task cards. So it can be on any skill. Like I have ones on adjectives or colors or sight words, matching, all kinds of ones like that. But it keeps the data for you. So like most of my sets have 20 cards, and the student will like do whatever, like pick the match or answer the question. And then at the end, it's like, okay, you got 17 out of 20. So then it will keep track on kind of when you've mastered a skill, and just and it's engaging. A lot of our kids love screens, so it's something a little more fun, but it's also easy prep. You don't have to print anything. You can do an addition boom card instead of doing a worksheet.
Okay, that sounds like way better than me printing out everything I'm printing out. So
I know, exactly.
Now, do I have to go to the boomlearning.com, or should I go through the Teachers Pay Teachers site?
Either one. If you look at so you'll have to create an account either way. The account's free. If you were to buy a set of my cards, it'll pop you over to the Boom site, and it'll be like, do you have an account? And you'll be like, no, make a new one. And then you'll get access to those. You can go right now to boomlearning.com, make an account, and see what's there. They have a bunch of free ones, so you can try out some free ones first, which is probably a good way to start and see how it all works. Because it takes a few times to kind of figure it all out, make sure your kid likes it, all that, and try it from there.
Okay, because it was saying if I'm a student, a teacher, or a maker. So which account?
I would sign up. You could just sign your child up, or you could sign up as a teacher, because right now it's all free.
Right. Okay.
Because you'll want to assign some things to your child, basically. So I would sign up under the teacher, and then from there you'll have to make a class, but you just put your own child in it, and then you can assign them things to do.
Okay, like a homeschool type situation. Yeah, that's what I did for Teachers Pay Teachers.
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, awesome.
You guys are all
but
teachers now.
Emergency homeschooling thing has saved the day, because it gives getting from the teachers, which is not much. There's a few crafts here and there, but they want to start the kids slow where we're at to kind of, just freshen their skills often.
Yeah.
Just keep things up is what I'm trying to keep their skills fresh and, working. I'm trying to incorporate more writing and things, because there's certain OT limits, there's certain speech limits, so I'm trying to make up those areas as well. But yeah, your awesome math and language arts, and those are so amazing, because I'm trying to get him to learn more pencil control and grip and things like that. And
awesome.
It's just fantastic. It's fantastic. So thank you.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear.
Yes, but from me, but I so appreciate you letting us have access to that.
Good.
Thank you, April. Okay, is there any more questions, Esther?
Rosara's back, so I'm gonna see if her audio can work for her now that she's unmuted, if she wants to go ahead and try.
Hi, Jody. Hi, Sasha. Could you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. I don't know what was going on earlier. Going back to the positive reinforcers, would a snack be able to be one of them? Because my daughter's a big snacker, or just objects like her iPad or any other toys?
No, food can be, food is my main reinforcer. I only do Instacart right now when we're low on ice cream, because I'm pregnant and can't drink wine. So, anything can be a reinforcer, like taking a nap, watching TV, going on a trampoline, playing iPad. Reinforcement is just anything that comes after a behavior that makes you want to do that behavior again in the future. So, an example I use a lot is if I say a joke and people laugh, well, the laughter is reinforcing that joke. I'm going to make sure to tell that joke again, right? If I tell a joke and no one laughs, I'm like, ooh, that bombed. I'm not going to say that joke again because that was awkward. So yeah, and in schools, sometimes it's oh, do we use food as a reinforcer? And my kind of advice there is always to meet the kid with where they're at. If food is the only thing that's a reinforcer right now, fine. But at the same time, you want to be aware of, not giving Costco-sized bags of gummy bears every day. You do all the special ed teacher tricks, and you cut up a Cheeto into 50 pieces. My general rule of thumb is okay, what would you give for a snack? Okay, that's what we're working for. This is what I've set aside for a snack. We're going to work for that. And I'm going to break a chip up, or I'm going to, use the token boards are really helpful for food, because then you don't have to give food every time. But, hey, yep, your snack's coming. You got to do these 3 things first.
And I think with reinforcers, reinforcers too, is they're not permanent with everything that you do. So when we were trying to get Remy potty trained. The reinforcer for her was ice cream. And that is like pulling out the big guns, right? Like, because you don't want to feed your kid ice cream all day, every day. And we knew that it was a huge reinforcer, but it was just like a couple spoonfuls at a time. And then obviously we just faded that out. Like, it wasn't like she was eating ice cream for months and months and now that's what she has for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's like, start with the huge things. And then as you go on, you can kind of lessen those and you don't have to bring out ice cream every time you want them to do their work or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I, on the parent kit, if you go to parent resources, I have a podcast episode and a YouTube video on reinforcement, because to me, this is just so important. And that, like, you exactly hit the nail on the head, Jody, that reinforcement is complicated. We think it sounds so easy, but it's not, because reinforcers change and there's different levels of reinforcers, and things can be a reinforcer today and not a reinforcer tomorrow. And so it's kind of this constant process of figuring out what's reinforcing right now. And it's not just this, like, these are the 3 things that are reinforcers for my kid and I'm done. And especially while we're home, the problem that's going to happen to every parent everywhere is we're going to overuse the reinforcers. And what kind of happens is, I call it the Taylor Swift effect. You know, the new Taylor Swift song comes out, we're obsessed with it, we listen to it, it's on the radio, we're into it. After like 2 weeks, you're like, if I hear Bad Blood again, I'm gonna lose my damn mind, right? So with our kids, we're like, oh great, they love ice cream. Ice cream, ice cream, ice cream. Every time you do something good, ice cream. And then after 2 weeks, they're gonna be like, I don't want any more ice cream. Yeah. So, you know, it's like if you went through the Candy Crush, if you were a Candy Crush person a few years ago, where you like cut all friends out of your life because you had to play Candy Crush all day, you got sick of it, right? Eventually you got sick of it. And that's the problem we're going to have with reinforcers at home, is because we just have so many more hours now to manage behaviors and all this, that now it's like, oh God, that reinforcer isn't going to work anymore. So I think a lot of things that we talked about earlier, like rotating toys and having a schedule and using token boards so we don't have to give as much reinforcers, is going to really be what avoids that as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay. Is there any more questions? Esther.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Before we go, Sasha, how can people find you?
Basically all the ways. You can email me at sasha@theautismhelper.com. I do respond to every email. Sometimes it takes me a little bit because I have a lot of emails right now, but I'm on Instagram or Facebook at the Autism Helper, and my website is autismhelper.com. So it's all pretty simple.
Super simple. And I think probably everyone here follows you, but if you don't follow her, go follow her. I love seeing your videos. I love seeing your stories. I love that your girls are in your stories. They look exactly like you.
They're trouble.
And you didn't mention this, but Sasha's pregnant right now and she's having a boy.
It's very large here.
And I can't wait. When are you due, Sasha?
July.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
like so soon.
But also so far away at the same time.
It'll go by super fast for me. So I just want to acknowledge you, Sasha. You, like, honestly, like I was saying, I lost a lot of faith in special education teachers just because of the experience that we had with Remy. And when I saw you and I started following you and I was researching your homeschooling curriculum, because that's how I found you. I was looking at homeschool curriculum. You restored my faith. And I think that for someone who doesn't have a child of their own with autism, but has the level of passion and love and commitment and sacrifice for our kiddos, you are like the person that all special needs parents just wish we had more of. And what you do is so needed and so appreciated. And I want to thank you for everything that you do, because I know that you work really hard and you make a lot of stuff to enrich the lives of our kiddos and our families. And I hope that you know that your work in this world is pretty phenomenal.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You're
Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for creating this emergency homeschool kit and all the curriculum that you create for our kiddos and for our special education teachers. You're changing the world, and it's an honor that you came and shared what you did with us. So thank you so much for everything.
Of course. You're too sweet.
Okay, so I tried to wrap this up in an hour. It went a little bit longer, but for everyone who came, thank you so much for coming. And this is going to be a podcast episode. So everyone on the podcast, thank you for joining us on the podcast. And yeah, anyway, I hope you have a really good night, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bye. It's nice to see you, Sasha. Thanks, Jody.
Oh, wait, we're going to do a picture, okay? I'm going to do a little
Oh, lovely.
Okay, so I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to do the screenshot. So 1, 2, 3.
Everyone's like turning their like cameras off real quick.
Where'd everyone go? Okay, all right. Well, thank you for everything.
Bye, guys.
Enjoy your ice.
Bye.
In there.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
How do I close out of here?